Hey babes, welcome to the ward. In this video, I am designing some friends for my magical boy Duomis. But before you get your hopes up, these guys are not magical boys. I'm sorry. So I made a couple other videos of me designing things for this series in the past. If you haven't seen those videos, I'll go over the plot and setting again real quick. So this is about a boy named Duomis who gets cursed by a dragon, and in order to get the curse lifted, he has to become a magical boy and help the dragon deal with monsters and things related to dreams. And the story is set on these two islands, and one island is inspired by Scandinavia and the other one is inspired by Japan. And it's a fantasy world, but instead of being a medieval fantasy world, it's set in the 90s, and the 90s part will be pretty important for these guys because of things like fashion and culture. Because I'm very knowledgeable about everything 90s because I'm a 2000s kid. So these are like side characters and they won't have a whole ton of screen time, so to say. So they're not magical boys, but they are important to show Duomis's personality and life before he becomes a magical boy. So they are important in that way. But as they are side characters, they won't have like a whole ton of screen time, so to say. But I still wanted to make this video so I could have more of an excuse to explore them more in depth. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I've been inspired by the art for The Legend of Loke 2, because they said that they designed the side and background characters as if they were all main characters, and I really liked that because it felt like they all had their own lives going on, which in turn made it feel like the world was much more alive, and I thought that was really cool. So I hope you can see that influence in here. Alright, let's talk about his friends. Let's get into it. So we've got three guys, and I kind of already had a decent idea of what I wanted to do with them. So what I'm doing mostly in this video is ironing out the details of their designs and exploring their characters. So this first guy, his name is Alf, and he's like the little yapper dog of the group. He's very talkative, spunky, and energetic. I wanted all these guys to be kind of grungy, so I thought of giving them all baggy pants. So at first I tried giving this guy just like slightly baggy pants, but I didn't really like them. So I tried giving him skinny jeans with big shoes, and I think that contrast creates a more interesting and fun silhouette. I think it also helps communicate his silly personality, kind of. At first I imagined him with like a kind of a short, ragged denim vest, but I thought it looked too similar to Duomis's vest in his magical boy form, and I kind of thought of changing it because I was like, oh, what if Duomis doesn't want his vest to look like his friends? So I tried doing like different variations of a longer denim vest, but none of them were really giving me the right vibe, so I'm like, I guess it's fine if it looks like Duomis's vest. Duomis is just gonna have to suck it up, I guess. I'm sorry, Duomis. Along with them being kind of grungy, I wanted them kind of all to have like a band t-shirt or something like that. Some kind of thing on their outfit that says that they're like into something. And that would contrast Duomis, who has nothing on his t-shirt. So I was trying to think of like real life bands that I could base their outfits on, kind of. At least their shirts, maybe. And I'm like decently familiar with a handful of 90s bands because when I was younger, when we were driving in the car a lot, we would listen to a lot of 90s bands. Some of them would skew more like 80s or 2000s. We would listen to stuff like U2, Foo Fighters, Depeche Mode, Smashing Pumpkins, The Killers, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Muse, 311, stuff like that. So I was trying to figure out the bands for these first two guys, and I originally was thinking of giving Alf Foo Fighters because his personality kind of reminds me of the one person I know whose favorite band is Foo Fighters. So I was thinking of giving him Foo Fighters, but I was also trying to figure out what I wanted for the next guy. I could think of like a few bands off the top of my head, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. So I looked up 90s bands and I saw Beastie Boys. I was like, oh my gosh, that's perfect for Alf. How could I forget? Because they're like the perfect amount of cool but dorky. So I thought that was perfect for him. And when I was looking up stuff about these bands, I read that one of the Beastie Boys had like a Volkswagen like necklace thing. So I thought of giving Alf something like that. So I gave him like this big necklace that's kind of meant to look like the Volkswagen logo. I wanted to include like a Beastie Boys aspect into it. So I like tried to put like 2 bees in there. It's not super obvious and it does kind of just look like the ABBA bees, but it's there. Honestly, I feel like it maybe feels a little bit too elegant, but I don't know. Yeah, so I wanted them all to have patterned t-shirts, but because I gave him like the vest and the big necklace, I felt like a patterned t-shirt would be kind of busy, so he does end up with a plain shirt, but that's fine. I wanted to give him like big chunky shoes to help with his silhouette, but also to look like the expensive brand shoes, because Alf likes blowing all his money on trendy stuff and material possessions. Because teenage boys, like, they seem to be really into expensive shoes. I don't know why. But I put that in there because that's what I observed that teenage boys like to do. Maybe someone in the comments can explain that for me. So I kind of wanted to make his shoes look like fancy, expensive brand shoes, so hopefully they give off that vibe. I also gave him short sleeves to show that he's very energetic and outgoing, and he likes to show off his muscles. I imagined him to be blonde, and I think he actually did steal like his hair and eye colors from some random maids from my webcomic, because I remember when I was coloring those girls, I just like slapped some random colors on there and I was like, oh, actually I kind of like these colors, I should use them for another character sometime. So here I think I did that. Yeah. And I also imagined him to have a white shirt and a light blue vest and pants, but I felt the blues were too matchy, but I really didn't want to darken them, so I ended up just changing the hue of the pants to a more green, but I didn't change the value, so I think that was a good compromise. So this is Alf. So this next guy is called Bo, and he's kind of like a sloth or a koala. He's just kind of lazy, and if you tell him to do something, he'll probably whine and groan like, just like that. But I think the first version I drew of him was too like handsome or preppy, so I needed him to look more like a bum. So I used a lot of body language and expressions to kind of get that idea across. I was inspired by this picture to give him long sleeves under a t-shirt, even though the story is set in summer. I was like, well, the island, it's kind of a cooler climate, and some people are okay with long sleeves in summer. So I'm like, it's fine. I also gave him some suspenders that he is not using properly for purely fashion's sake. I told you guys that I was originally thinking of giving Alf a Foo Fighters inspired outfit, kinda, but I changed Alf to Beastie Boys, and I was at first thinking of making Bo like Depeche Mode or 311, because I think they have like a gentler sound, so to say, but I was thinking more about Foo Fighters after I had it open, so I was like, oh, I kind of feel like they have like a duality between maybe like some gentler stuff, but also some like more loud kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm not super knowledgeable about band culture, so if I get anything wrong, please feel free to correct me. So I decided to give Foo Fighters to Bo, and I kind of just took like 2 Fs and flipped them around and combined them into kind of an S shape. And apparently Foo Fighters is named after like some kind of fighter plane, so I added wings to the side of it, and then we have his band t-shirt. Because he's kind of lazy and I accidentally drew him too preppy at the start, then I had an idea to make that version like an older brother of his that's like a successful violinist, and he's always getting on Bo for not living up to his potential and stuff, and then Bo's like super annoyed by that. So that was an idea I had. For his shoes, I just like looked up 90s skateboarding shoes, and I just like grabbed one, like, yep, that's good. So I wasn't too picky about them. So some things you gotta know about Duomis and his friends is that Duomis is an insecure teenage boy who just kind of wants to fit in and follow the crowd because he doesn't really know who he is and what he wants. Obviously, him becoming a magical boy and all the story stuff that happens helps him figure things out, but I hope that seeing his relationship with his friends at the start will help emphasize the contrast of him becoming himself, so to say. So Duomis's friends, they're like kind of likable, but also kind of unlikable. Like, they're not bad people. It's just that there's probably other people around that Duomis could connect with better, but he doesn't know that. So he just kind of hangs out with them and follows them around because he feels like they're what guys his age are supposed to be. But he does find their company kind of draining, and they do some things that he doesn't really like, but he feels too scared to like speak up about it because he doesn't want them to be mean to him or stop being his friend. Like, they don't do anything like illegal or harmful, like drinking or drugs and stuff, but they do things like maybe loitering or littering. Gasp. So Duomis isn't super comfortable with that, but the only thing he doesn't compromise on is safety because his dad passed away in an accident of sorts. So he's kind of paranoid about safety. So he does force his friends to at least wear helmets when they're like going skating and stuff. And they do tease him about that. So other than that last bit, Duomis definitely is trying to make himself fit into a certain mold. Because this story deals with dreams and the psychology behind them, I've been exploring Jungian psychology, which has been giving me lots of ideas for more of the story outside of the dream stuff. So it's been cool and it's pretty interesting. So I'm a noob with Jungian psychology, so if I get anything wrong, correct me. But in Jungian psychology, part of what we are conscious of in ourself is our persona, which is a Latin term for mask. So that's the version of ourselves that we show to the world in order to be more socially desirable. So in a sense, Alf and Bo are representative of the mask that Duomis is trying so hard to keep on. I wish I could say I came up with that, like, on purpose, but I think I came up with, like, the rough idea for these guys before I started researching Jungian psychology, so it's more of a happy accident. For his colors, I knew I wanted him to have, like, black hair, but with a blue tint, which is very anime, and a darker shirt because the other guys have light shirts. The Foo Fighters shirts I saw were kind of like too red, which felt too energetic and powerful for this lazy guy. So I gave him more like calm blue colors. I wanted his eyes to be brown, but they looked too red at first. So I tried making them more yellow, but then they looked kind of like poop. So I adjusted the blues and stuff in his outfit, and then the red-brown looked fine. And that's Bo. Yeah. So this last guy is Loke, and he's like the cat of the group. I actually designed him first because I was the most excited about him. I wanted him to be very, very grungy, like grunge incarnate. And I feel like oversized clothes are very associated with grunge stuff, so I gave him very, very big clothes, which gave me the idea to make him very skinny under the clothes because contrast is fun, and it makes me think of like when you give a fluffy cat a bath and then they're all skinny underneath. But to be clear, he's not like trying to hide anything. He doesn't feel like insecure, he just enjoys oversized clothes. I also like another contrasty idea where it's like he looks homeless, but he's actually like from a wealthy family. Yes, just like Fred from Big Hero 6. I knew I wanted his shirt to be Nirvana inspired because Nirvana is like the big staple of the 90s. But I feel like I actually don't know Nirvana like a whole ton. Like I did look up stuff and like a song to make sure I had heard it and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I know this. But I feel like the most I know about Nirvana is like in Magnus Chase, where they're like, oh, Magnus looks like Kurt Cobain. And I look up Nirvana and I'm like, oh my gosh, Kurt Cobain looks like Magnus Chase. So there's that, and like the discourse online, whether people that don't know Nirvana are allowed to wear the Nirvana t-shirt. That's what I know. But I feel like Nirvana and grunge are very intertwined in a way. So I wanted this guy to have like a Nirvana t-shirt. So Nirvana is like the afterlife or heaven in Buddhism. Okay, this is editing war. Nirvana in Buddhism is not the afterlife. It is a higher stage of being. So I got that wrong. I apologize for that. I also apologize for pronouncing Nirvana wrong multiple times. I'm sorry, please forgive me. And if you saw my dragons video, you might know that some stuff in this story is inspired by Norse mythology, so I slapped Valhalla on there, but I didn't think to like change the spelling, make it a legally distinct Valhalla like I did with the dragons. Oopsies. Also, Nirvana's shirt has like a distorted hippie type symbol, so I used a peace sign, but also a symbol associated with Valhalla is like a Valknut. I forgot what it means, but it's a triangle. So I use like a droopy triangular peace sign, so hopefully that gives Nirvana vibes. For Elf, I knew I wanted him to be the shortest, and for Bo, I knew I wanted him to be the tallest, but I didn't know how tall Loke should be, and I felt like whether he was taller or shorter than Duomis was important to his vibe. So I tried both while I was on a call with my friend, and she said shorter was better, and I agreed, so thank you, friend. I also gave him some jewelry and ragged clothes to push that rebellious, I don't care what people in society think about me vibe. Even his shoes are crusty, contrasting the other boys who do care about their shoes a lot. I wanted his name to have an O sound in it, and for all these guys I was looking at like Scandinavian boy names, and I saw the name Loke, and I thought it would be a good way to have Loki in my story that has things inspired by Norse mythology without actually having Loki in there, because I think he's super annoying. So I'm like, just kick him out, get him out. So the closest we get to having Loki is having a guy named Loke. So if Alf and Bo represent the persona, Loke represents the shadow. In Jungian psychology, the shadow is the parts of ourselves that we have repressed, and they can be good or bad, and they live in our unconscious. The self tends to feel disgruntled when we see repressed aspects of ourselves being present in others. Unlike Duomis, Loke is confident and content with himself, and he does the things he does and presents himself in a certain way because he actually likes those things. So he's not afraid to be himself regardless of what other people think. So Duomis isn't sure if he should feel uneasy around Loke or if he wishes he was more like him. Loke might seem like he's an aloof guy, but he's actually like super nosy and curious, and coincidentally is into psychology, so his hobbies include people watching and eavesdropping. He loves to quietly observe Duomis like he's a little lab rat, because he can see, to an extent, the kind of battle that's going on inside Duomis despite his best efforts to hide everything. For colors, I knew I wanted him to have reddish brown hair and teal eyes, so I put his skin and hair colors down first and adjusted them to how I envisioned them. Then I thought they looked too similar to my persona, so I literally checked them against my persona and they were almost the same. So I tried to adjust it a little more so it's not so similar, but I really wanted him to have these colors, so I guess it's fine. Even though Nirvana shirts usually are black, I wanted his to be white because I wanted his jacket to be dark so we could have contrast. I thought his jacket could be like red, blue, or green, but I decided to make it green because it looks relaxed, and red and green are complementary colors. I made it a bit too dark at first, which was too similar of a value to his hair, so I made it lighter and I thought that would look good. But the plaid pattern with the green and the red kind of make him look like a watermelon. Oops. After I finished the drawing and I exported the speed paint and everything, I did go back and make his pants holes look like they're more worn instead of like he just took scissors to them. So yeah, that's Loke. So I think this was an interesting project, kinda. I haven't really explored side characters this much in I don't know how long. It was definitely interesting, but like I said, I'm not like super knowledgeable about like band culture and Jungian psychology at the moment, so if I got anything wrong, please feel free to correct me. Other than that, maybe let me know if you have a favorite of these guys. Yeah, if you want to see the house video or the dragon video that I talked about before, I'll leave them in the description. So yeah, thank you for watching, stay curious, and have a wonderful day.